Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's SCT Symptomatic Sickle Cell Trait Global Voices United session with my special guest, Rochelle. We are here to discuss a topic that I think everybody is very keen on knowing more about. I think with having sickle cell trait, so many of us have suffered so much and been told it's growing pains. Rochelle and I were just kind of saying we're full-grown adults now, and we still have these so-called growing pains, and we're symptomatic. So without further ado, I'll just introduce today's session. Good afternoon, good morning, and good evening to wherever you're joining us from. My name is Marka Miller, and I founded this support group in 2020 purely from going through a really major crisis where I was physically disabled for 3 months. And then I went on this was March, I began having headaches. June, I went into crisis. September, I ended up having a bleed that literally has lasted till this year. So it's been ongoing complications. The December of 2020, I ended up having a mini stroke, and I've had those kind of issues still ongoing to date, and chronic headaches with severe nausea. So that's just a brief introduction to me, who I am. And so we started holding sessions where carriers of sickle cell trait would come and share their stories. We started off with panels, and then when I kind of needed a bit of a break, I couldn't continue. However, this year I feel ready to pick up the baton and start sharing again, because I think this is something that the world needs to know, medics need to know, researchers need to know, and we need them to know about us. So the more of us that share, this topic is a huge burden on my heart, and I want us to get the help that we need. So I haven't been well this week, so it's very short notice that I put the flyer together. So apologies to everybody, but thank you if you're able to join and watch. Okay, so I'm based in the UK. I am Zambian Moroccan heritage, and my lovely guest, Rochelle Hona. Have I said that right, Rochelle?
You have. It's perfect, Rochelle Hona, yeah.
Perfect. She is Caucasian ethnicity, or so on the surface we would see. So yes, Rochelle is an SCT warrior and a parent of an SCT warrior. She's a mother of 2, a loving partner, and medical secretary. And she's of South African origin, and she's based in the British South African origin. Yeah. And she's based in the UK. So without further ado, the floor's yours, Rochelle. Share your story with us. Welcome.
Well, thank you for having me. It's been really nice getting to speak to you and know you over the past, is it year already?
Yeah, it's flown by quick.
Been having this before. So my name's Rochelle. I was born in South Africa, born and grew up in South Africa. My mum is South African and my dad is British, both Caucasian, as far as we know. I only found out about the sickle cell trait when I was pregnant. And obviously you have to go through all of your pregnancy blood tests. And it was a bit of a funny one, because they called me and said, "Oh, could you come and have another blood test?"
Mm-hmm.
I was like, "Oh, okay." And they thought that they'd mixed up the bloods.
Wow.
They did another blood test and they went, "Oh, did you realise that you're actually a carrier of sickle cell?" And I went, "No, what is that?" And I had to go and sort of read up about it, and I just thought, well, I've never known about this, and I grew up in Africa.
Mm-hmm.
And still didn't know about sickle cell or sickle cell trait. So then obviously her dad then had to be tested, but he's full British, so it was absolutely fine. But then considering I'm half British, half South African, and he's full British, my daughter still ended up being a carrier.
Wow. And
It's,
he's white British, did you
yeah.
say? Wow.
So yeah, she still ended up being a carrier, and I think it's been a bit of a learning curve, both as a mother and as someone who gets the same symptoms, trying to figure out and work through, well, is it this, or could it be related to the sickle cell? Is it, you know, like the growing pains that we spoke about? And it gets to a point where they're like, so I used to be quite overweight, and it was, oh, well, your joints are aching because you're overweight. If you lose, so I've lost weight, my joints are still aching.
Yes.
I'm getting, really, really bad hip and knee pain. And then, like we spoke about earlier, the kidney spasms that come out of nowhere. No matter how much water I drink throughout the day, there'll be a kidney spasm. And so those are some of the things that I experienced lately.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So how long, when did you start noticing the kidney spasms? Is that a recent thing?
No, so I've had that sort of grow all my life.
Wow.
So there's been a few things where we've spoken and you've said, oh, well, I get this, this, and this. And then when I went back and started reading up all about it, I was like, oh, well, actually, I was very sporty as a child, but I used to get moments of feeling like a black curtain or passing out.
Yeah.
And it was, oh, it's heat exhaustion, you're dehydrated, it's this, that. And when I looked into it, I thought, well, actually, no, because people with sickle cell or sickle cell traits, like extreme exercise, heat, and not being hydrated, you can pass out. Mm-hmm. And so I started looking at things that I'd experienced as a child, as a teenager, and going, well, could that have actually been me having a bit of a crisis, or what was it put down to? But it wasn't medically explored.
That's really quite scary. I think
now that I know.
It is, looking back. I mean, it's just mind-boggling, and it makes me still get so emotional, because there's so much that we could either put in place to protect ourselves, and the kids especially, when we're children in school doing sports and things that someone with sickle cell is told, don't engage in physical sports and activities to that kind of intensity, or sometimes just being careful to even play out with friends if it's hot or if it's cold, to wrap up. And it's really dangerous.
Yeah, I think the scariest one for me is I had to have 10 teeth removed in order to get braces and everything.
Yes.
And put under a general anesthetic.
Yeah.
Obviously not knowing sickle cell trait or anything. And I got given the gas mask, count backwards from 20, and I fought it. It was literally, I was counting and counting and counting, and then they had to do intravenous.
Yeah.
But now knowing the impacts that anesthesia can have on sickle cell, it makes me really, really worried that, something could have happened during my surgery. I could have had a real lack of oxygen and ended up brain dead.
Yeah.
So it's something that I'm learning to kind of deal with. And I think when we spoke earlier and I mentioned, I'm going to have to go into surgery at some point, and you said, make sure you've got hematology. So
even if they don't take you on board, just having a protocol in place, and refuse to have surgery until you have a hematology protocol in place. If the hematologist is ignorant, find another one and refuse to have the surgery until you have a protocol in place, because it's so important that even those who don't have any symptoms whatsoever, I found out the reason. I mean, they made me have a crisis a few years ago when I had surgery, and I was begging for warmth. I was begging for a blanket. I was saying, I'm cold. I'm really cold. The drip inside it was literally here on my wrist, and it was on the bone. And I said to my mom, thank God my mom was with me, and we had our puffer jackets. It was sort of when was it? It was October, November time.
Yeah.
So going into winter, and it was cold. And the air, anytime there's a vent above me blowing, I'm always really cautious about like air blowing on me, because I'm always layered. I'll always have a scarf. I'll always have something with me to wrap up. And even today I'm in a long sleeve, but because I have my fans blowing on me. So I thought, I don't want to catch, and I've been in crisis this week, so I don't want to catch a chill and then end up really, really bad. So I just thought, okay, well, so anyone having surgery, just make sure you put a hematology protocol in place. I'm not under hematology, but because he's done genetics tests and he knows that sickle cell trait can present in crises, under the right physiological and environmental factors, being told dehydration, and dehydration with surgery as well is a key one. You're not supposed to drink fluid if you're having surgery over the next morning or the next day, no fluids overnight. So you're therefore dehydrated. It's a prime, bodily environment for a crisis to take place. So please, I'm begging anybody listening, if you're having surgery and you have sickle cell trait, get hematology to put that protocol in place, just as Rochelle was saying, because it's not worth the risk. It can, like you said, God forbid, brain damage can happen, strokes can happen. I had a stroke and no GP listened to me. So it's a scary
as well. And I didn't realize that, because you about like the blood cells, and obviously because we're traits, not all of them or most of them are sickled, but we still need that oxygen going round. And it really did frighten me that, heart, lungs, brain, kidneys, bowels, bladders,
organs,
everything can just go. And it does frighten me. I think the kidney one frightens me a lot because of renal failure, and obviously that's something I see in my place of work, and it really does frighten me. And when you say to doctors, oh, I'm a carrier of sickle cell, or I've got sickle cell, and it's almost, oh, okay, and you expect a little bit more, but it's almost, okay, well, you're just trait, so you don't have the disease. And I'm like, but it doesn't take it away that there is still that, even if it's a 0.001% chance, there is still that chance of something happening.
Yes.
And I think that's why I wanted to join your group and have the say, because it does need to be looked into more. And a lot of it is focused on the disease itself, but it needs to take into consideration the trait aspects, and that traits have symptoms as well. However minor they are, it's still symptomatic.
Definitely.
And that's what worries me, especially if you have a child and you're trying to protect that child and they're going, well, it's traits.
Well, the thing is, I mean, there's research out there that shows even in sports, children with the trait have been known to suddenly, pass away, or there's renal, kidney problems, having spasms in the kidney. I mean, I also experienced, similar to you, passing out during sports, and I would get very breathless and feel like I can't get air inside my lungs. And as it's really hot here at the moment, I like the heat, but the past few years, I've been suffering with it really badly, where I feel like inside my flat, it's better outside, but inside my flat, I feel like I can't get air in my lungs, and I feel like I can't breathe. It's stifling, even if I have the windows open, and the sun just comes directly through our window as well, which doesn't help. but I feel any breeze. If there's a breeze, I'll put on a cardigan or whatever. So we're abnormal. Well, abnormal in the most nicest way. But there are quirks to us. But as well, it's like just knowing that it's trait related, and these are symptoms that are recorded out there. It's just knowing where to find them, because not every single clinical website states that trait carriers can suffer. I just think, I mean, how does you said that your daughter also has the trait. How do you manage with her? How are her symptoms?
So her symptoms, she gets joint ache a lot.
Yeah.
Hips, knees. She also gets, so we're both really cold people.
Yeah.
I am, because my partner's from Newcastle, so he's used to the cold.
Yes.
It is funny because even now we're in summer, in the evenings, I have my blanket.
Yes.
That I can watch TV with. And people at work laugh because they all have the fan on. And I'm like, got my cardi on and I'm up, and it has to be a certain temperature for me to be in shorts and a t-shirt. So like, I'm in my bedroom, there's one fan just circulating, but it's comfortable temperature and it's on quite low, so I'm not getting a chill. But I've been outside and I was like, I'm battling with the heat, but the floor is cold and my feet are really cold. So trying to make my daughter as well, it's hot out, and she goes, but I'm not hot. And then it's okay, but it is hot, and I know that you are feeling cold, but if you don't take your jumper off, there's a chance that you could get really hot and pass out. And it's trying to manage all of that. I've had to write notes for her for PE because they've been doing athletics, and I've had to say, she needs hydration, she needs rest breaks.
Yeah.
She says she needs to stop. She needs to stop.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I'm trying to push forward is his trait, but I'm putting these in place now so that she doesn't have to go through what I've gone through being Caucasian. And that's the funniest thing, is going to the doctor with an issue and saying you've got, because I've mentioned a few times, could this be related to my sickle cell trait? And they've gone, you've got sickle cell? And I'm like, yes, I'm a carrier. And they go, but you're white. Like, but they don't quite get it. And a few doctors, or there's been a few that have gone, oh, wow. And I've, there are things that I find that, like I said, I've had really amazing good days where we've gone to a theme park, really good days, and I'm not hurting. I've had water, everything, and I will still get kidney spasms and joint aches. And you just think, because no one's actually pinpointed or has looked into it, there's part of me that starts to doubt how I know the sickle cell trait to be, and could it be this? So doubting my symptoms, or going, maybe it's just, brush that one off, brush this one off. So I think the fact that, one, I don't have it in my person written down anywhere, so it's just on my hospital notes from when I was pregnant, but I don't have that information anywhere because it's just trait, and I'm putting it like that because it's not just trait. So I don't have that anywhere. I have, however, just put it down on like my organ donor cards. I've put it down everywhere so that people know if I'm out walking the streets, it's hot and I've collapsed. It could just be because I'm having a crisis moment, and get me cool, get me hydrated, and be okay.
I think that's key. I think because there's so much, I mean, one thing that you just said that stuck out to me is it makes me laugh now, but it's really painful going through it because GPs not understanding and GPs looking at you and saying, what? I mean, I kind of knew that people of Mediterranean backgrounds could suffer or, could carry the trait or have full-blown sickle cell. However, I didn't realize it kind of hits you different when you know that, but then you meet people who are of, who look white and you're like, well, oh, okay, well, they're not mixed blood that they know of, so where's this come from? And it does raise a question, but for them to actually state that and say, but you're white. I mean, it's kind of like we with trait anyway get that in the minimal, it's a big deal, but it isn't, considering that you have it even more so just because of your ethnicity, which is like, do they not read? That's the question that it kind of really, it also angers me because it's like, are they that ignorant that they're just Googling everything? And why do we go to you then? We go to you for help. That's what we're coming to you for. You should know this. You've studied how many years to become this specialist. And yes, they have general knowledge, but they should know at least the minimum, the basic minimum with sickle cell trait and sickle cell disease. It's like, it really fills us with much hope, right?
loads of hope.
It's
but the other thing that when I was looking back through my life, so it doesn't embarrass me now because I'm an adult and I've worked through it and gone through it. It embarrassed me when I was growing up. So as a teenager, I was still quite incontinent at night. My bladder, no one knew what was happening. I had ultrasounds, I had scans, I had urine flow tests. No one knew why I was still having bladder issues. And that's when I started looking up and going, oh, well, actually, bowel, bladder, kidneys can all be affected. And that's one of the things that I kind of threw back and went, maybe maybe it could have been that when I was growing up. And I've just, as I've grown up, learned to train my bladder in a way. But with my daughter being under Evelina for bowel and bladder issues herself, they've also done ultrasounds, urine flow tests, and everything looks fine. Everything looks fine. So we just have to question whether this needs to be investigated more, and having more people, more researchers actually looking into traits and going, yes, okay, there is definite symptoms, how can we help? But it seems to be brushed off just because of the word trait. So it's really, it's frustrating and it's disheartening because you're stuck between a rock and a hard place. You need the help, and the people who are trained to help don't know the knowledge to be able to help. So it's just, I laugh because if I don't, it makes me upset and tearful. So I laugh about it because I just think you've got degrees and I'm still more educated in this than you are. And I'm not, because it's only the past couple of years that I've started looking into it a bit more. So there's still a lot of things that I am unaware of or ignorant of, because there's, not in a bad sense, but apart from people with sickle cell or trait themselves writing the books, there's not a lot of information out there.
You're right. And that's what got me. I mean, I I don't know if you read my story, but there's a lot of sarcastic humor in there. And it was, at the time, I had a dig because I was angry, I was hurt, I was upset. I was so upset that no one told me the information that could have cost my life on numerous occasions, not just the one. And it's every single time that I have something wrong and I know something's wrong with me. I can see something's not, my body's not healing like a normal person, so what is wrong? What's going on? And then when I told them and suggested over the years growing up, I have sickle cell trait. I know that these are symptoms that people with full-blown disease go through. My neighbors, thankfully, I lived next to people who had two neighbors who had full-blown sickle cell anemia, and I saw them in and out of hospital growing up. So it was like, well, I know what I go through, but I felt I had to keep quiet, to shut up and keep quiet, purely because I was told, oh, it's growing pains. And then my mom even stopped taking me to the doctors. Imagine when I'm writhing in bed with a fever, a swollen stomach. It could have been my spleen. Who knows? My hands are so swollen. I constantly have sore skin. And just being told it's growing pains, and then a parent to not really know anything but to pray. And I thank God she prayed, and she prayed and she fought in prayer the best she knew how. But I think for me, it's God's grace that's kept me alive. And I believe that, the reason now I'm alive is to fight for us, because no one does. And unless we start talking now, I'm grateful for warriors like you, for everyone who's willing to share their story, because I think without the numbers, we're stuck. We'll always be stuck if no one, if we're stuck at such a low number of people willing to speak out and to say, I suffer too. And we're not alone, because literally, even from where we're sat, we're holding hands, our hearts are united in this common battle that we're fighting, and we've got each other. To me, it's such a comfort knowing that I have people to go to, that I can say, these are what I'm going through. And it's like, you guys give me that strength. Even when I was ill this week, I thought, no, we're doing this discussion on Saturday. No matter what, if I can't type, then I'll just create a flyer somehow, one finger typing. And I thought, no, we're doing this, because if I've been struggling to sit down because of the ongoing issue I've been having, and it's been really painful. And so I was thinking, no, I'll do this. It's an hour and a half, we can do this together. And it just makes us fight. Just having you there saying, I want to share my story. And it's like, thank you. It means everything to me. And I know to everyone listening, and to the many more who will see, this discussion, it's everything. I'm so grateful to you.
Well, I'm thankful for you and the group, because without your stories or your support, it starts to feel like you're a hypochondriac, or you're imagining and things, or anything like that. So, and over the past year of speaking, I can't thank you enough for the group and for people sharing things, because just looking through it and seeing, oh, I suffer with that as well, or my crisis haven't been that serious, but it's nice just to be able to read that people are all in the same boat with no one listening. So yes, I'm so thankful to you for setting this group up. It's been a help.
Thank you. I'm grateful. I mean, I think initially I was afraid of saying anything, because everyone who knew me knew I just disappeared so often during my life. When I was going through pain, I would just kind of, oh, she's sick again. Everyone would just ask. And then close friends, I got paranoid of sharing with my close friends and even family members. Sorry, my dog is barking in the background. But yeah, even family members, I never disclosed to them what I was going through. And it became such a burden to carry alone. And people would look at me and think, oh, you're weird, or you can't suffer. I had a close friend, actually get cross with me because I said I suffer symptoms of sickle cell. And that was my cutoff point. I stopped telling anybody, and apart from medics. And I remember when I had the crisis after the surgery I had, and I told the nurse, she literally ignored me. And I said, no, you don't understand. I'm having stabbing pains in my legs. She put it down to flu. And I said, I know the difference between flu and crisis pains. It was within 2-3 hours of having this surgery and being under a cold vent. And I said to my mom that, like, my heart was pounding, and I said, I'm going to be sick. I looked at her and I said, I know now flu doesn't come on just like that.
No.
It takes time to build in your body, and then you start off with slight symptoms and then it escalates. This was from the fan and the dehydration, and I could feel my body change within hours. I was like, Mom, I'm going to be sick. And I got that panic attack that I tend to have often whenever I'm going to have a major or severe crisis. I tend to know my body gives me signs and symptoms, and the breathlessness was coming on. And the second time I had an operation, they wouldn't do it. The same ward, and the same ward, they wouldn't do it until they got clearance from hematology. And he said, I'm not under hematology, but if I attend or if I have surgery, I have to be put on a protocol. So oxygen, IV fluids, monitored overnight to ensure that I don't go into crisis, because a crisis can escalate just like that, and it can cause sudden death. It's something that if people don't know how to manage, and if medics who we expect to save our lives, in God willing, where they can, and hopefully, we can trust them overnight with our lives, because it's just scary thinking that so many don't know about it. So now I carry my book wherever I go, and I show them the page that, you guys made me have a crisis the last time. And I mean, it could have been a lawsuit if I'd have had the strength at the time, and it would have gone nasty, but I'm glad that it didn't, because now I can educate in a way that says, I've learned from this, but now I'm not going to let you do this to me again.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
But
So now I'm glad you can put this in place for yourself.
I'm so sorry that you've gone through that. It's horrible hearing stories like that, because it makes you worry for your own self. And two, it just makes you think, well, why are we fighting if no one's listening? But unfortunately for them, there's a lot of strong warriors in our group that have really good voices, and it's amazing to make it so aware.
Yeah.
So there was a point, I think you mentioned, it was in the chat a while ago, during pregnancy and birth and everything, and it was something that stuck out to me a little bit. Is the fact that sickle cell traits during birth were hemorrhaging, and I lost 2 pints of blood.
Yeah. Wow.
And that was something that obviously wasn't taken into account. They'd done my bloods. They knew I was a carrier. And, it's just something like that sort of, it's traits. But that was something that fascinated me, because I just thought, well, it's something that happens during labor, that can happen. And just to hear of the other stories when you'd mentioned, I just thought, wow, okay, this could actually have been related to my trait rather than just having a hemorrhage. So it's frightening.
It is frightening. I mean, 100% relate to that, because my second one, I bled early, and then many weeks, I have the exact dates in my book and from my diary entries, but later on, I think it was just before 5 months. So I think I was 19 weeks and I just started bleeding. It was like water pouring out of me. And I'd gone to the bathroom to use the loo in the morning, still half asleep, and I was really unwell. And I felt I was just drenched, and I thought something's wrong. And then I didn't turn the lights on. And then my underwear was drenched, and I began to panic. I turned the light on, and it was just blood pouring from me. And they had me in hospital for a full week. And so, yeah, the hemorrhaging is scary. It's so real. And then it continued after. I put two and two together because it triggered a crisis after delivering. But I lost, 1.3 liters of blood.
Wow.
In that week. It was quite scary. You just think, wow, that's really, it's scary. And then hearing other people say that, these are experiences, and why does it have to get to that point that we our lives are in danger when it gets to that state? How can we be so ignored and so misunderstood? And if only they would kind of join forces with us to learn, because now that's what these discussions, I hope, that's the aim for them, is that we're learning together. And if medics willing to hold hands with us and say, instead of fighting us, just let's learn, even if they rule it out mentally, but can you not kind of humor me, just kind of comfort me, that's what you're supposed to be doing. So just give me a bit of comfort by just joining forces and saying, and not just dismissing me because, like in your case, ethnicity, because I look white to you. Well, so I have sickle cell trait. It's on my records. Exactly. You can see it. It's in my blood.
You wouldn't do it with any other disease.
Yes.
I think it is one that does stick out, and it's times where I really, really am thankful for the fact that I have ADHD, because the brain and the mouth sometimes don't always engage, and the filter isn't always there. And I say it all the time about sickle cell trait and how I've got sickle cell trait, and I've had a few people at work saying, oh, well, what does happen? What you experience, I don't know. And it's quite nice for them to go, I don't know about it. Like, what do you? And I'll always quite happily tell them, and I'll say, I'm no expert. I'm still learning stuff about myself. And sickle cell trait and sickle cell disease all together. But it is nice when people ask and want to learn. But I do openly just declare it all the time, I think, because I've gone past the part of there being a stigma. I'm Caucasian with an ethnic minority blood-related disease. And, it's just the myths and the stigmas have already been broken for me. So I don't think I hold back anymore. I just quite openly say it and say, well, right, my joints are aching, like I've had blood tests because in the severely cold weather, my hands were literally, and I couldn't move them. I was getting pain in the mornings, especially when it's cold, constant pins and needles. And I'm constantly doing that. So I've had blood tests for rheumatoid arthritis. I don't have, the blood tests are all fine. So you kind of go, right, so you've ruled that out. Please start listening to me now about my joints. So I've also stopped caring that I might seem like a hypochondriac constantly going to my GP, because I think, no, I'm going to make you do all the tests. So if I'm negative, I can go, right, we've done the rheumatoid arthritis. Doesn't be that. Let's cross it off and let's start looking at the sickle cell. And that's the only way that I can start doing it, because when my daughter was younger, for a year, and there's no joke, for a year, I was in A&E because she had constant stomach problems. She was in excruciating pain to the point it was appendicitis. did scans, did bloods, everything fine.
Mm-hmm.
It's horrible to say, but it took that for me to go, no more. Seeing my child in absolute unbearable pain, no more. Not doing it.
It makes you snap. Something inside makes you snap. You'd do anything for your child.
Absolutely. So now I'm on the point, right, if this hurts, that's fine. I'll go to the GP. And I don't care how many times I have to go and tell them I need them to start listening.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's I'll say it again, it just frustrates me.
Yeah.
Something terrible.
Exactly. Is there any medication that they've been able to give you for the pain? I mean, I find nothing really touches it unless it's opioids. Really?
Paracetamol, ibuprofen, or cocodamol. So luckily I've been looking at homeopathic remedies as well. And there's a bit of research that I've been looking into about lemons and like lemongrass.
Yes.
And it's got a really, really good so it can help with respiration, with blood pressure, with things like that. And we've been trialing, I say we because no one else in the house has had a say in it, but we've been trialing lemons next to the bed and lemongrass,
like tea,
like essential oils.
Okay, yeah.
We dilute that and everyone gets bed sprayed and everything. I can't say that how well it's worked. My partner snores and his snoring has minimized, like it's so decreased. His little boy is not as snotty as he was. My daughter doesn't battle with her headaches. She's not as achy in the mornings. I'm not as achy. It's been helping. I mean, it doesn't take everything away.
Of course.
But there's little benefits to it. And I start waking up feeling a little bit better about it. So it's something that's we've tried doing rather than constantly taking paracetamol and ibuprofen because it doesn't work.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I swear I think it's good that you mentioned that because I mean, in my massage therapy days way back, I used to use lemongrass essential oil more as the therapeutic effect, the benefits of the breathing. But I never, there's things that you tend to forget, especially when you're going through stuff and the pain is so intense. So I've just written down lemongrass essential oils because I tend to use lavender, which is good. It's good for pain relief too, and breathing as well. But and I've been taking the lemongrass tea, when you just boil hot water and strain it, and I'll add that to like boiled water and a pinch of honey, and that does the trick for me. The lemongrass tea, it helps. But I tend to use turmeric and milk, not cow's milk. I use almond or hazelnut or oat milk, and that boiled turmeric powder or the root just crushed, and a pinch of ginger, cardamom, a few other spices, and a pinch of honey. And that's my anti-inflammatory nighttime drink. I've kind of been cutting out the hot chocolate on cold evenings. I'll have like cocoa, dark chocolate cocoa, or turmeric and milk with a dash of black pepper, which activates the turmeric. And that's I try and avoid, because I just had a medication review and they told me, do you know cocodamol can cause addiction? I said, yes, that's why I try my best not to take it as much, but I'm on the highest dose. I said, well, my body's kind of adjusted to it, but I don't take it. I try my best not to take it daily, even though I need it, because I am in a lot of pain daily, but I try and space it out during the week, how often I take it, because I just know how bad it is for me. And it's just masking rather than dealing with it. So yeah, it is frustrating, really frustrating going through this. And I'm sorry that it's taken you seeing your baby in such pain, and knowing that you know in your body that they ruled out all these things, but they're just ignoring the one thing that you're saying. Please listen, it's not too much to ask for that help.
Honestly, whenever I've had an issue,
Mm-hmm.
the first thing I say is, oh, this can't be related to my sickle cell trait.
Mm-hmm.
I always say, oh, is this related, or can this be related, or oh, this can't be related to my sickle cell, can it? And oh, no, you're just a carrier. And I'm like,
Wow.
I'll do my own homework and my own research then.
Yeah. What do you feel you would like to see happen with regards to sickle cell trait? What do you feel needs to happen in order for them to take it seriously?
I think, especially now, I haven't done a lot of research, but I think, especially like for us here in the UK, there does be more research.
Yes.
More research put into it, worldwide, even just traits, because I think full-blown sickle cell disease is widely known and people know effects, but when you're trait, it's just assumed that you don't get symptoms, or if you do, they're very minor, they're not life-threatening. No one die from sickle cell trait. And it's such a misconception, and it's something that needs to be looked into more. I think also you can't just put it down to race or region. It's gone past that. The world itself is so mixed and united, so different. We all come from so many different places. I mean, my heritage alone, yes, I've got a British dad and a South African mum, but my mum herself, being of Afrikaans, which is Dutch, has traced the Vikings.
Wow.
So I can't say that we're all just, oh, because you were born in Zambia, then yes, or because this. It can't just be down to ethnicity anymore. They have to start looking at the wider picture of, we've got so many people who, aren't of, an ethnic minority group, but are still carrying the gene or carrying the traits. So I have seen there have been a few people on the group that are Caucasian as myself.
Yes.
We might not be Caucasian all the way through, but that we look Caucasian. So it's just the misconceptions of it need to be abolished, and they just need to start looking into it completely.
Yeah, I fully agree, because yes, the stigma, and again, I mean, I do believe that racial biases are at the root of this problem, that because it is, yes, predominantly Africans of Black, African, or Caribbean origin are the ones known to suffer with this genetic inherited disease. But then if you look at the Mediterranean, there's Mediterraneans, Eastern Europeans, Asians suffering as well, and carriers of this illness. So, and like you said, if we look at genetics and family makeups and everything, and we see, we look back at throwbacks we were talking about in my family, and I know many people may not like that word, but there's throwbacks in my family, so I don't care. I'm not very PC. I don't care anyway, so whatever. My mom came out looking extremely white skinned, but she's a Black woman. Both her parents were brown, medium brown skinned complexion. Most of her siblings are dark skinned or medium brown skinned. And you just kind of look, but then you look at the genetics as well, because there is white blood in the background as well, so, and white British, hence the name Miller. My surname is Miller. And I'm proud of the name. I'm grateful for that, because it's like, well, people look at me and they think, what are you? And it's like, what's your mix?
I'm
What's
a
that
person.
human
Thank you
being?
for
But
asking.
yeah. And I identify as, Moroccan Zambian, or, black woman, light-skinned black woman. But and I think the racial biases, when people look at you at face value, they don't see all that you come with, all the packaging that you're in. And it's like, well, if we start unraveling, and this is what medics do, they're supposed to unravel and look deeper and, uncover the depth of what makes a person, and the genetic, the genetic inherited stuff. And they look at the genes, that's where we'll get the answers. And I think if they start just kind of saying, okay, sickle cell trait, it can affect anyone. Yes, there's a predominance in Africa, but if we look at the origin of the trait, which came before the disease, it's because it was infested with malaria, mosquitoes. So mosquitoes, it was a protective mechanism that happened for us to develop that gene.
And we know that mosquitoes aren't just based in Africa, because
exactly.
even when it's cold, we've got
exactly. So it's just, it is frustrating. I mean, I think we need panels. We need larger panels. So I've asked Faustina and Chauncey if they'd come on camera and they'd share as well and join us for the last half hour, 20 minutes. We'll wrap up about 25 past, just so that we can close before it kicks us off. But I just thank you for being brave enough to share your story, because I think it's needed. I think more people need to know that, it's okay to speak out. It's okay to talk about the uncomfortable stuff, address it, because I think without addressing it, we're going to always stay in this place where, it's taboo to talk about being sick, or it's embarrassing. I've gotten over that embarrassment a long time ago. I still get nervous doing lives, but hey, it is what it is.
I love watching you talk about it, because you can see that there's a real passion in wanting to get this looked into more, and having the research, having the funding, having medical people on board to help get this going. And it is something that, you've started, and you've brought us all together to have one united voice. So never get nervous, because you're doing such a brilliant job.
Thank you. I mean, so are you. The fact that you joined this group it means so much to me from the bottom of my heart. And we're always going to be sickle cell trait family, and I'm, I'd like to think I try and be there for as many as I can, as soon as I'm able to. Even if I'm unwell, I might like a post and then come back to it a while later. But it's like, we're all in this together. The fight isn't alone, we're in it together, even when we're feeling like we're alone. But there is that relief from having that sickle cell trait community, that we can find a bit of solace and comfort in knowing that it's not just us suffering. And we're here to share, the symptoms that they matter, knowing that, well, we're not blood relatives, but these symptoms, we've listed them. These are the same things that so-and-so goes through, that Rochelle goes through, that Mwape goes through, that Faustina goes through, that Chauncey goes through. And, these are, and then, but we live in the four corners of the world. So how is this even possible? What's the underlying issue? They've done bloods for years and nothing's come up. And even though sometimes it can be that we have underlying medical issues, but alongside with comorbidity of having another genetic marker like sickle cell trait as well, it can really trigger some serious pain combined with other things as well. And some of us may not have, other illnesses combined, but we just have the trait, and that's the common denominator. If they just took a look at that and said, okay, well, we're finding all these people, there's almost 900 in this group alone, and the predominantly the trait, and many people with the trait, either parents or warriors themselves, going through some serious stuff. And it's like, well, what is the common factor that we're all going through, and the symptoms that are similar, but we don't know each other before this group? This is trait related. It's not all in my head. It's not made up. I wouldn't fake pain like that. It's embarrassing being in pain, especially in public.
Oh God, yeah. Especially walking about and the kidney spasm goes and your back goes, and
Yes.
it's not a pleasant thing. And it's not something that we joke about. It's not something because we're looking for attention.
Yeah.
It's not anything to be ashamed of. It's, we're having pain and there's a reason for it, and we need that reason to be explored.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Oh my goodness. We could talk about this forever. I think there's so many different topics on the one subject alone. It's just, wow. We need to have, I think, a huge panel discussion at one point and just have let's all get together and just say, what can we do as a group, to kind of push this out there? Because I know we can do things. It's just when we're all well and time zones and stuff. But I think there's so much more that we can do as a community to push this and to say, okay, we're going to take this into our own hands. And if, the even the World Health Organization, if they're not going to listen to us, how do we make them listen? Because I think that's as far as it needs to get. It needs to go that high up. And
we look at the group already, we all don't live in the same place.
Yes.
We're of so many different cultures, ethnicities,
yes,
these languages.
Yeah.
We're so diverse.
Mm-hmm.
Does it have to, at what point do they have to go, oh, okay, we have to, explore this?
Yeah.
It's not like it's just one little region in the middle of Africa that is just affected by this. Sorry, I had a mind blank.
No, it's okay.
But that is one of the main reasons why I wanted to get involved. Luckily it's just you and I. I know that there's a lot of other people listening, but to me, it's just you and I, and it's been really, really helpful. But I wanted to just kind of break that stigma, break that myth of, an African, Caribbean, Moroccan disease. There's Caucasians that are battling, and because there is such a bias towards the Caucasian sickle cell trait, when we are having a crisis or anything, it does get looked at as growing pains, obesity, whatever else. There's just it needs to stop, and it needs to just be looked into.
Definitely. I 100% agree. And again, I just want to say thank you for being that one that steps out and says, okay, let's talk about the Caucasian sickle cell trait community, because there's warriors out there who aren't of black African origin. And it's like, well, what happens now if you attend hospital? I find it hard, but then I can make them listen to me. I can scream at them and continue kicking, screaming, and make it a racial thing, but then what happens? It's still a racial thing, because what happens when you go and it's like, well, because I'm white, you're going to ignore that I'm even a carrier. It's just mind boggling. And
I think for me as well, I wanted to speak up, because how many Caucasian people are there out there that are battling with constant pains, aches, that might not even know about having sickle cell trait, or have never been tested for it, and are really, really ill. And I think for me, at least showing, right, I'm Caucasian, I've got sickle cell trait, by all means. It's a simple enough blood test. I mean, my daughter was found out from the baby's heel prick test.
Wow.
That one drop of blood, and they found out. So it's, just there's so many different aspects to it.
Definitely. I'm just so grateful. At this moment in time, I want to ask Chauncey and Faustina if they will unmute. So I've just unmuted or asked to unmute Chauncey, Chauncey, and Faustina as well. So whoever would like to go first, please share. Are you okay to start your videos? Hey, Chauncey.
Hello.
How are you?
No. If I can make this a bit brighter.
Hey, Faustina.
Hi, sis. Sorry, I'm actually outside.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Welcome, guys. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm in Florida, so it's a bit dark. So I apologize. My lighting is a little funny.
It's all good.
I just wanted to thank you for coming and sharing your story. I found your group, in the middle of the pandemic, and I was looking for just some answers. I was just wondering, I think the word you guys used was they call it hypochondriac, right?
Yeah.
I'm 31. I have had health issues probably since the moment mom got pregnant. So I was born 2 months early. There was some complications there. And then I had been prone to like ear infections. And then later on, I kept telling my mom, like, my joints hurt. Like, I don't understand why my back hurts. Like, my legs hurt. And we were active kids. They did x-rays, growing pains.
Yeah.
And, it's like, okay, well, just, be active, just do the thing. And then I, played sports. I ran track, ran around the neighborhood, did bicycling, soccer, field hockey. But then when I hit college age, I had trouble breathing. So then they said it was asthma. So they said, okay, you should stop. But they couldn't, treat the asthma. So, and then from there, I actually steadily got worse. I've had several mini strokes. I have several, I've had 2 minor heart attacks.
Wow.
I'm hard of hearing in the right ear now. I've had several surgeries for various reasons. The last one I had was due to kidney issues. I was absolutely actively septic. So I was like kind of on my deathbed. This was back in December. They did a blood transfusion. And then they actually found out I didn't wake up when they tried to revive me. They had to like pump me full of I think it's like fentanyl or something similar to get me to wake up. Like I had a band on because I wasn't waking up from the anesthetic. And I hadn't really had problems before, but over the last 4 years, I have just been getting worse. So, I've like came to the conclusion in 2020, I was like, all right, it's got to be the sickle cell. I also have thalassemia. So they're like, it's rare that you have both. Most people have one or the other in some way, shape, or form. And I couldn't get the doctors to believe me. I had a pain crisis brought on by an allergic reaction to a medication because asthma. And I went to the doctor and the doctor was like, okay, what are you on? What's going on? Are you doing drugs? And I'm like, I barely respond to Excedrin or Tylenol or ibuprofen. I quite literally can't be a drug addict. Okay. I have bad reactions to certain medications because it's got to be something. And I was like, all right, it's got to be the sickle cell because my research shows that it's very similar to sickle cell disease. These are things that happen. These are crises. I have flare-ups. My skin is so sensitive. Sometimes I can't even wear clothes. I can't handle sheets. My joints are just a mess. I did also have our rheumatoid arthritis tests. I actually do have arthritis in my back now. I've had several strokes. I've had to learn. I remember you, Mape, you were talking about being paralyzed on your side. Was it your right?
Yeah, the whole right side.
My right side went too. Then my full body went. I haven't worked in 3 years because of this. My mom had to relocate from Virginia to take care of me because I just was not able to. I was in hospital, rehab. I do various stints of physical therapy. I had to relearn how to eat, walk, talk. I still have a stutter. I'm still fighting with disability now. I'm hoping they'll tell me, by the end of the summer, what I can do. Trying to find work is difficult. I'm not able to drive anymore. You're talking about the air. I have a fan in my room, but I kind of have to be covered because I get hot. But my feet get cold, so I'm always wearing socks, I gotta have a blanket. I have a jacket on right now.
Over me.
Yeah. My PCP when I was in Virginia, I loved that woman. She helped me get off of the medications that I was on because I kept having bad reactions too. And she was like, you know what? It might be better if you moved to a warmer climate. So that's how I ended up moving from the north to the south. And it's actually helped. But the downside is that I swell up a lot. So I had to invest in compression socks and shoes that weren't lace up anymore because I couldn't handle the pressure. I'm on several medications now, again, because of pain. They don't always help. So I've turned to CBD, heat therapy.
Yes.
I do have a holistic shop that I visit. Not visit, but I get things delivered now because it's in Baltimore, Maryland. So it's like a lot of herb cleanses because now I have developed food sensitivities. So I have to be careful what I eat because those things also increase inflammation and pain. So it's a lot of lifestyle changes that went over the last 10 years. And I was like, it's got to be the sickle cell. My sister does have sickle cell, but she's asymptomatic. Her kids don't. My brother doesn't. It came from my father. He's also asymptomatic. So
what they need to look into is a form of sickle cell disease, because if you have a thalassemia trait and an S trait, it can be classified. Over here in the UK, it's normally classified as having sickle cell disease, a form of it. I can't remember if it depends on which thalassemia trait you have. So I'm gonna message you afterwards because I think what might be worth what it might be worth you doing is booking a call with Inscription and just kind of asking Dr. Maisha what she can recommend, to help you holistically as well. I think she's amazing. She's so amazing. And so knowledgeable as well with both, and she can recommend what tests that you can possibly ask your hematologist to look into for you, especially because she's based in America. So I think that might be worth you going down that route as well. But I'm so sorry that you've suffered so much and it's still continuing.
Yeah, it's a daily struggle, like trying to explain to people, they say, oh, you're young, you're fine, you'll bounce back. And I'm like, okay, well, if I could bounce back from having sickle-shaped blood cells, tell me how I can do that. I get funny looks from people, like the title of your book is, Invisible Disability. I get funny looks when me and my mom go out and we park in accessible parking, and they're looking, they're staring like, what's wrong? And I'm like, you want to take a picture?
Yeah, exactly.
When I used to drive and I was by myself and I would park, I would get stares from, the older generation. And, sometimes I'd exaggerate. Like if I was having a bad day, I have a limp, I exaggerate it. But and I'm trying to get, just doctors to believe me and to get in with a hematologist because they wouldn't see me.
Yeah.
The one I have now, I like him. He did acknowledge the sickle cell and the thalassemia, but he kind of downplayed it. So I haven't been able to get like a second opinion or anything. But my PCP and a few other doctors I've seen have actively acknowledged it. They just haven't really like treated or are like actively treating it. So like Rochelle was saying, I'll do my own research. I'll do my own remedies. I'll do my own kind of thing because I know my body. I know the difference between, like you were saying, flu. I know the difference between pains. I know the difference between my period pain, my arthritis pain, my crisis pain. I know the differences in these pains because I live in this body every day.
Exactly.
So for you to tell me that this is something that it's just in my head or that I'm just experiencing growing pains or, who the hell are you to tell me that?
Exactly.
Excuse me.
It's infuriating.
It's infuriating. It's frustrating.
Yeah.
And, it's an experience and it's something that, even my mom, she didn't really believe that, it was like that kind of serious thing until, I couldn't walk one day. I was paralyzed. I, had some mini strokes, so, now she's a lot more serious about it and, helps me categorize, how I'm doing. And, but I appreciate you guys sharing your story and I'm glad that I'm not like alone in this because even my fiance, he doesn't really understand, but he was there when I had my first major pain crisis. He was the one who saw me literally stand up and just fall and then took me called the ambulance. He took care of everything, people don't stick around for, persons with disabilities, it can make or break relationships. And I keep asking him, are you sure you want to,
Yes, to do this? Yeah, it is hard. It's hard being with someone who's always sick. You get the occasional, or maybe more than occasional, what's wrong with you? And it's like, you don't really have a leg to stand on because clinically, I'm supposed to be fine. A healthy carrier.
Yeah, exactly. I'm supposed to be fine. Like, one day I'll be fine. I'm sitting there. Next thing, babe, don't touch me. Don't even. I can't, and then, his feelings are hurt. And I'm like, I'm sorry. Just, it's not you. It's literally just me right now. Just give me a minute. I'll be fine. So, but anyway, I just wanted to share, I really do appreciate that, everybody, pops in, they're worried about kids because we want kids, but we want to make sure that we're, taking precautions, to do the best we can. And, for both my health and the health of our future kids, I want to make sure that I'm being protected and safe and as healthy as I can be. And then, what happens after that? So, Rochelle, in your case, you found out when your child was just a kid, but mom didn't find out I had sickle cell till I was like 5 and I had bad reactions to vitamins. So, my brother's daughter, She's about a month old. She doesn't have sickle cell. Thank God for that. She's a perfectly healthy, adorable little thing. So, it's just something that, I want to make sure that I'm knowledgeable about.
Yeah.
For my future, as I get older and my future generation and what that looks like. Because I don't know what else to do.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah.
Exactly. I just think like we've all mentioned, we are a globally united family. We all have the same genetics in the sense of, we all have inherited this S gene, and, we're all in this together, learning together. Some may have found out, like you said, Chauncey, your mom found out at the age of 5 with you. Same, I started having crises from age 5. And I always knew once I moved to an area where I lived, I was born in the UK. Mom took us back home to Zambia, and then we moved to South Africa, and the sun did me good. I was fine all the way at home. We came to the cold, and that's when it triggered crises. And then my immediate neighbor had full-blown sickle cell. And by the age of 8, she knew what I continually went through. And she said, you're having crises, because I told her what was going on. And she is an adult, and it's like, oh, you have sickle cell. I'm like, no, I just have the trait. Mom always knew I had the trait, but then every time she'd go to the doctors, the same thing, growing pains. And it's like, well, no, here we are, a group of us now sharing. These growing pains are still here.
How much more growing do I need to do?
I think as women in our 30s,
yes,
I'm sure we don't stop. We don't carry on growing. We're starting the shrinking period now.
Exactly. Oh my goodness. I want to ask Faustina if she can come on quickly as well, I think we have 6 minutes left before it cuts us off. I should have made it a bit, I didn't realize we'd have so many join, which is amazing, because normally there's just the 2 on panel and everybody kind of shies away from being on camera. So Chauncey, thank you. Thank you for coming and joining Rochelle and I.
Thank you for sharing it. I appreciate it. I don't get to talk to like-minded people about this because no one really understands, and my circle is like this big. So I just really appreciate it.
Oh, we appreciate you so much. And like I said to Rochelle, I'm here. If ever you want to reach out to me, drop me a message. And, even if I don't respond initially straight away, I will reply. And I'm here for both of you always. You guys are my heart. So thank you. And Faustina, I don't know if you're able to start your video, but sis, share. I'll just say thank you to everybody watching in case it cuts off from now. But thank you to my wonderful guest, Rochelle, and to my special guests, Chauncey and Faustina. Grace, I haven't had a chance to ask you to unmute because you weren't on at the same time as Faustina and Chauncey wrote in the chat that they would like to share. So the count is telling me 4 minutes, 30 seconds. So Faustina, you can share, and then take us out, sis. And
all right.
Leave a minute for everyone to say a quick bye or whatever they want to say closing.
All right, sis. Thank you so much for the opportunity. So I'll keep my video off.
Okay.
Yeah, because I'm outside, and I'll just keep it off. Firstly, I would like to thank everyone for sharing. It's great, not in the good way, though it's both great in the good and bad way, knowing to say there are other people experiencing the same pain as you, because these doctors and everyone else don't believe in the pain. And when you find someone saying the same things that you're going through, it's actually some kind of relief to say you it's not in your head, but everyone goes through it with symptomatic. And I think the more we come out, the more we share our stories, we're gonna reach out to many people. I remember one time I went to the hospital and the doctor was like, I've never met someone who's symptomatic who has the trait and go through pain. Then I was like, then you haven't been in the same thing for a long time. The thing is, they would say they haven't heard or seen people because we keep it as a secret. We go through pain and then we keep quiet. We don't speak out, or because of what the society will think or what others are going to think. As they say, they'll just tell you, it's in your head. You just need to brush it off or do something interesting so that you keep your mind off the pain. But how can you manage doing that? So I think if we can continue speaking out, reaching out to a lot of people, then it will change the narrative of sickle cell trait not being symptomatic, because it's both symptomatic and asymptomatic. And as for us who are symptomatic, it's not easy on us. I started experiencing more pain in 2020. But during my childhood, I had the same pain, but we considered it to be normal, being that there's literally no one in my family who has sickle cell, and no one ever thought of getting me tested for the same trait or sickle cell. But then in 2020, when my pain exaggerated, or when my pain increased and all those, that's when I went for the test and it came out AS, which we never thought of. And I believe it's from my dad, who is late, so there's no way we could confirm that. But then since 2020, I've been in pain, like every kind of crisis I've experienced it. And I had what's the name again? I've forgotten the name. I heard her say something about arthritis. And last year in August, I had some tests done, and it happens that I have rheumatoid arthritis, and I had to change my lifestyle, how I eat, and everything. But then knowing that there's someone else with the trait and also has arthritis makes me think it's kind of related. So because the time I had the test, the doctor was actually surprised.
30 seconds.
All right, she was actually surprised to say I have both, but then I was like, maybe it's the trait that has caused the arthritis. But then I never had the evidence or anything to support my thought or my opinion. All right, then I'll just say thank you.
Sorry.
All right, guys. Thank you for the meeting. It was actually great, and I hope since you've recorded it.
I think it's actually still ongoing. So I think continue, but continue until it ends.
All right. So I'm going to share this video with on my page because I have like 1K followers now. And I believe there's a lot of people on my page who are symptomatic, and watching this video is going to make them kind of wanting to speak up. And if there's anyone who's willing to do so, then since we are always available to spread more awareness.
Amazing.
And everything. Yeah.
Thank you. Oh, thank you so much, Faustina, for sharing. I thought it was gonna cut, so I've been kind of interjecting, so apologies. But I think because Rochelle and I have been on since the start, we need a bit of a breather in the heat as well.
Yeah.
And I want to thank you all. Thank you, Rochelle, for speaking and sharing your story today. And thank you to Chauncey, Faustina, Grace for joining us on this panel. And thank you for everyone watching. Lois in Greece is saying, bye, everyone. Love from Greece. And she says, knowing your status saves lives, but still it's not enough. If only she was informed about the impact of intense exercise on SCT people. And she is the mother of a warrior who no longer, sadly, is not with us anymore. And that's what we want to continue avoiding. So we fight on for Nina and for our warriors who have sadly lost their lives because of this medical bias. It comes down to the racial bias. And again, it's not just a Black disease. It's as we see, white people have it too. It's Caucasian. It goes beyond ethnicity. It's urgent. We keep on sharing. So thank you, guys. Any closing remarks? Feel free to chime in, and then we'll go from there.
All right. Thank you, everyone, and we should always remember to advocate for ourselves, stay hydrated, keep warm, and rest, because it's one of the important things. And let's continue spreading awareness so that we reach a lot of people. And hopefully things will change by 2025. The next generation won't have to go through what we're going through right now.
Yes.
It's bye from me now.
Okay. Bye, sis.
Bye.
Thanks, Faustina. Chauncey, would you like to say a closing remark?
Just, like Faustina, just advocate for yourself. You know your body best. You know your limits, your maxes, your everything. Keep records. I've learned to keep and track everything now. Just monitor yourself, both the good days and the bad days. And someone told me to just have grace. Take it easy on yourself. You're doing the best with what you have, and just one day at a time. And take it easy on yourself. If you can't do it, you can't do it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay. So that's a hard lesson for me to learn these last 10 years. Because I used to be, so active, and I used to move around, and, I used to be so independent that to have it stripped away from me was like traumatic. So, but I do wish, Rochelle, you and your kids the best, to learn to monitor that as she's growing. That can be, life-changing, because I didn't have that. So, but just,
I wish you all the best in your health. I know you've had a really, really rough time, and a lot of your symptoms that you've experienced, I've experienced, but maybe not in the same degree that you have. But I do wish you all the best, and hopefully they'll be able to finally say, right, that's it. This is what it is, and get you on the right track.
Yes.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And again, Wape, thank you for creating this group just in the nick of time, because it really wasn't like a thing out there, So they first thought for me it was Guillain-Barré, and then it was MS, but I didn't show any markers for that. It's plenty of specialists, so. But yeah, just I appreciate you guys. I appreciate everybody who's been watching and sharing their stories. I've been seeing things in the group. Just give yourself grace, and I wish everybody the best.
Thank you so much. And Rochelle, I think Grace had wanted to ask a question. Grace, I don't know, Rochelle, are you good for one question?
Yeah, I should be.
I know that the time was till past and we've gone over 5 minutes, but just if we have one question, we can see if we can accommodate, and then I'll let you finish with the final remarks.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine.
Okay, thank you. Grace, I will just unmute you now, if it's allowing me. Yes. Hey, Grace. Welcome. Are you able to unmute? I've tried to unmute you my end. Hey,
Okay.
welcome.
Hi. Good morning. My question was related to blood labs. I wanted to ask if your hemoglobin S is high and if your hemoglobin A is low, do those values make your body have more symptoms? Or, so I'm trying to figure out if you have more symptoms depending on how high or low your values are.
That is a good question. I think that's the golden question. In my opinion, I came to the conclusion, well, I've been told by my genetics counselor after having many crises growing up since the age of 5, I'm nearly 40 now, I'm 38. And I just think, well, my hemoglobin's high my hemoglobin S is high. So they tell me, and it's closer to 40. But then again, if you're in crisis, it can fluctuate and increase. I believe the higher your hemoglobin S is, the higher the risk of sickling would be. But that's just my opinion, not clinical. I do believe the higher the rate of sickled cells, the more instances. And I guess from hearing so many stories in the group, I do believe that's potentially the case. But again, I'm not a medic, so it's just opinion. But I believe so. Challenge that.
Okay. Thank you so much. I don't want to take up too much time, but I just was really curious about that. If the levels, give you more symptoms.
I believe so. And I definitely challenge them and say, wouldn't it make sense? Because obviously with having a hemoglobin S that's, faulty, because and again, the faulty seems to mask in people who are carriers. The faulty seems to mask the other issues that our normal hemoglobin isn't able to do. Because if we're having symptoms, well, that surely indicates that there's a problem with even the normal hemoglobin. If our normal hemoglobin it's higher than the S, but then surely there's a problem with that because it's not doing what it's supposed to do oxygen-wise in our body. So I believe it's common sense to medics, but many medics just ignore us and dismiss even that common sense sort of logic. So yes. I think so many of us question it, don't we? And
absolutely,
it's an important question. Thank you, sis. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. See you all. Thank you so much. Bye.
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 Rochelle, my darling, what are your closing remarks?
I just want to say thank you very much for obviously asking me to be a part of your panel and giving me the chance to speak out on behalf of fellow Caucasians who are suffering. I just want to let the group know that you're not alone wherever you are, because thanks to Rachel, we've got this group. And we're all going through something, whether it's major crisis, minor crisis, just little aches and pains here and there. We're all going through it. And as long as we got each other to voice upon and bring awareness to the group, we can and we will eventually make our point and make our stand, and they will listen.
Yes.
So as many of us as there is, like you said, there's over 900 in the group, and we're not all on one continent. We're not all of the same race. We don't all speak the same language, but we're all experiencing the same symptoms, however severe they are. And at some point it's got to give, and they have to start listening. That is not growing pains, hypochondria, anything else, you know. So, and like my closing point is just thank you again for setting this group up.
Thank you.
Because as a Caucasian with it, there is nowhere you can turn to. You know? There is no one else that you can speak to. Even if you Google, there's not a lot of information.
We got you, babe. We got you. We got you. We're all in this together, and it's, you know, love is love. We love each other. You know, we kind of going through the same thing, and I just think the fact that we have that common ground beyond the racial barriers. You know, there are no barriers with this apart from just the ocean between us. For many of us, and so we got you. We're in it together, 100%. Thank you for being a part, and thank you for sharing.
You're most welcome. As many people as it helps is all that I wanted. Just raise awareness, help other people find their voice and speak up. So, anytime.
Thank you. Thank you to everyone who's joining on Facebook and watching us. And thank you to my beautiful guest, Rochelle, amazing guest, Chauncey, for being willing to turn her camera on and share, because I know it's sometimes really daunting. And for Grace, thank you so much, beautiful Grace, joining us at the last minute, but you joined beforehand, but at the time of the questions, I'm so grateful that we managed to get you on camera as well, and for you to share and ask that question. So many of us, you know, do wonder. And thank you to amazing Faustina as well from Zambia, you know, joining in and just sharing just a snippet. Guys, if okay with you, if we can hold another panel maybe for a bit longer and get us all on and just have a major discussion on every topic we can throw and get as many questions as answered, you know, within that full time. Maybe that's the next session. We could do something like that where we just ask questions to each other and voice the questions we dare not answer, you know, ask or haven't been answered as yet in the group. I think it's really helpful. So with that, without further ado, I'll just say thank you once again to amazing panelists that have joined today. Thank you to Rochelle for sharing your story and your fight, which is our collective fight. And let's continue changing the incorrect I can't speak now, incorrect narratives on SCT and on what it means to live with symptoms of a disease we're classified as not having. And blessings and so much love to you and to everybody who joined, whether Facebook Live or whether on panel. Blessings to everyone. I love you guys. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.